Stories from 3 Simple Steps is an interview series based on the book 3 Simple Steps by New York Times best-selling author Trevor Blake. This video series is produced and hosted by Allison Phillips, a fellow 3 Simple Steps reader and the creator of storiesfrom3simplesteps.com. In this interview series, readers volunteered to share their experiences of how the powerful daily practices in the book 3 Simple Steps have positively affected and in some cases radically changed their careers, their businesses, and their lives. Wherever in the world you are, we hope that this story inspires you to create an even better life experience and a greater positive impact in this world.
Hello, everybody. It's Allison Phillips here doing another interview with a user of 3 Simple Steps. And my interviewee today, my guest today, is Grace, and Grace Hernandez. And Grace, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling from Asheville, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, not too far from me. I'm in Georgia.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So let me ask you first, how did you first hear about the book 3 Simple Steps? Where and how did you discover it?
Yeah, okay, great. So I was living in Virginia at the time on a 1,000-acre farm, and one of my friends sent me a link to an interview on some public radio station in California. And I listened to the interview. I was super busy on the farm, didn't have a whole lot of time for reading and so forth, but I listened to the interview. And what caught me, it was Trevor, and I thought Trevor Blake, and I thought, man, his voice caught me. For some reason, I was like, this guy's really grounded. And so I listened to the interview, and I think that was in the fall of 2011, and just didn't have time to investigate it any further after that. And then a couple, I guess like 6 months later, was back in Virginia, happened to be at the library where we were, and walked in, and there his book was on the shelf, and it was one of those where it practically fell off the shelf. And so I was like, oh my God, there's that book, and I needed that book. I needed his book at that very moment, so I brought it home from the library.
Wow. And so what was it that prompted you to get the book? Like what's the inspiration, or what's the purpose that you decided, oh, now's the time to get it?
Well, the time, good. Okay, so the timing was right for me to get it because my husband and I were in a huge transition, and I was emotionally feeling a lot of, what Trevor describes in the book as quicksand.
Mm-hmm.
So I was feeling a little bit of the quicksand emotionally because the direction that we were supposed to take next wasn't evident to us. And so I don't know if anybody's ever, sort of made transitions and moved from one state to another and sort of gone, okay, it's a little bit of a gap where you kind of go, what is it I want to do next? What are we doing? How do I want to make money? So you have to really, internally, you have to really be, you have to be at a strong place. And I felt that way most of the time, and then I would have these moments where I would be like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. So his book was perfect because I love how he describes the quicksand.
Okay. And so you got the book. So this was like 2 years ago? When in 2011 was it?
No, 2011 was when in the fall of 2011 was when I heard the interview.
Oh, okay.
And then, maybe it's 2012. I think I might have the years wrong. Don't pay attention to it.
Okay.
With dates. I'm terrible with dates.
Okay.
So it's been 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was 2012. And then I got the book in April, I think it was March of 2013.
Okay, cool. So you got the book and started reading it, and what happened? Well, actually, let me ask you, so since you read it, were there other books that you've read like 3 Simple Steps, and if so, what was the difference for you with 3 Simple Steps?
Yeah, okay, so I'm a seeker, and I've been on a path, like everybody, in my own way for some time. And I'm always looking, for ways to feel better. And so, naturally, and so, his book came to me at a pivotal time. So yes, I've read many things, done other things. There's other things that I'm interested in. Some things that have helped me try to look at life more positively than the normal conventional way of living. News, however people have to create their reality. I'm really sort of into deliberate creating at this point in my life.
Sure.
And so the book, I got the book, and the reason why his book was so pivotal for me and for my husband, because he read it too, is because we were going to take a job. And he talks about in the book, when you make that contract to yourself, you write out.
Yeah.
And we were going to maybe do this job, and I had done that contract, and all of a sudden this job just did not feel right. It was like, oh no.
Oh, wow.
I can't take this job now. I just made this contract to myself.
Oh, my goodness. So what was the disconnect? Like, what made you feel like it's not the right job?
Let's see. Because the person who we were going to be working for was initially one way, and then in another interview was somebody totally different.
Oh,
okay.
And
my instincts went, you're going to be you're going to be micromanaged. Don't do it.
Okay, got it. So you got that intuitive sense that this isn't what I should do. Okay.
Yeah, and so once I made that commitment to myself with the contract, I said, it was like this feeling like I can't go back now. And I've had to do it. I think I've had to do it twice since then. But that contract thing was just like, I'm so ready for this. His book might be the type of book for some people where they might read it and then 5 years later it'll kick in or whatever. Because I've sort of had that with different things in my life, depending on where I'm at. But I'm older, and I'm just, I'm just ready. I'm ready to be in this place where it feels like I'm running the show pretty much most of the time. And the other thing is the thing so the quicksand aspect of the book, the contract, making the contract to yourself, the promise to yourself, whatever you want to call it. The other thing that got me many times and still does is he simplifies something that I really needed for a long time, but didn't get it from anything else that I was studying or learning, to live by, is the mentality shield.
So compared to other things that you've read, that was a significant difference for you.
Totally. Absolutely.
And what made it so different and impactful? What about that whole aspect of the mentality shield really clicked for you?
This is a really good question, and I hope I think I can answer it as, in a way that's simple, because it's such a powerful step. I'm really sensitive, and I always have been, and I don't know what that is, but I came in with this, and it's been a curse and a blessing in my life. And when I read his book, and I realized that it was as easy as having a mentality shield and not absorbing other people's realities, other people's, behaviors, other people's reactions to me, responses, whatever. I just knew that when I read that book, I went, oh my God, this is what I've been missing.
Wow. And so let's go there with step number one. So you started practicing your mentality shield. Can you share how that manifested for you? Like, what were the changes that you experienced that really cemented for you and created change in your life?
Well, I think it was just really simple. As I stopped listening to I haven't owned a TV for over a decade. I don't even know how long. And maybe 15 years, I would think. But anyway, so I'm privy to that reality, and I'm to the things that Trevor talks about on his blog. With just whatever that world of. I guess an example would be as if I sat down and watched the news, and if I didn't have my mentality shield up, oh my God, how am I even going to make it out the door? I mean, because it's so it's so dreadful. It's so over the top, so dramatic. Everything is bad. Why do we spend so much energy, talking about all these bad things when there's so many great things going on, So that's like one example. I think maybe another example is like just simply going out into the world, running errands, doing things, and wanting to have positive interactions with people. And people aren't always, it's like he talks about it in the book. We all have our own fingerprints. So your intentions are totally personal, which that's another piece that is really good for me, because I'm the type of person where I'm feeling good, and I want to get everybody on the bandwagon with me. And it's like, no, he's really taught me, that it's about you, and people come along if it's right for them or whatever. So I think the mentality shield for me has really been something. Every day when I get up, I've been doing this since I started the book in March. I have not missed a day of writing my intentions down.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, doing the 20 minutes, every morning. Sometimes I do the 20 minutes twice a day, and I always take a pause, and I think, and I think about the mentality shield, because I don't want to go out totally. I want to come from life, with a place from an open heart, but not a naive open heart.
Right.
And so, it's kind of freed me up a little bit, because I realize not everybody's problems are my problem now.
Yeah, that's freedom. That would be freedom right there. Now, let me ask you about your commitment, because this is one of the important things that was eye-opening for me, because like you, I read a lot of books. I'm always trying to, refine my mindset, get clearer and clearer on what I'm supposed to be in this world, and, I'm a seeker like you. And the part of the book that struck me was the fact that I was committed to personal growth. I was committed to the deepening of my own, soul, connection with my soul, my spirit, all that stuff. And the part of the book that struck me one day when I was reading it, and like you, I read it over and over and over, and I think this only struck me like the 8th or 9th time that I read the book. And the part that I read was that this process of 3 simple steps requires a commitment and discipline. And up till then, I thought I was pretty disciplined about my own personal growth and all of that. And the discipline for me was that I was always, because I'm a seeker, I'm always looking for more things to read, more things to read, and more things to read, and realized when I read that every month or two, my daily practice around how I elevate myself, my energy, and all that stuff changes. And I wasn't really disciplined about doing anything in any one way. And at that point was when I decided, okay, I think I'm going to do this in a disciplined way. I am committed to doing 3 simple steps every single day without fail through the end of 2014, and I'm sure I'll continue it after that. So the question I had for you was, there are a lot of listeners or viewers of this 3 Simple Steps Stories series that may be hitting blocks where they're like, well, I missed a day, oh gosh, I'm too busy, I'm not sure if I could actually write out my intentions every day, that's going to take time, I'm not sure if I can do it. So share with our listeners, how come you didn't fall into the trap of, oh gosh, I don't have enough time, and stayed with it every single day?
Yeah, well, let's see. I know exactly what you're saying when you say, in your story, that with being a seeker and feeling that you've had a lot of, meditation, all these other things. Meditation is totally different than quiet time, and I really, really get that. And I already was meditating, and I've already been in that sort of a process myself, trying to quiet the mind and so forth. But I think you're ready when you're ready, and for me, there are certain things I don't have in my life right now that I really want, and some of them I really need. And so if somebody's going to tell me a really simple process happen, And I start doing it, and, you know, within 2 weeks, I start seeing little things here and there. It's like it's like good food. I'm not going to stop eating it.
So it had an impact pretty quickly for you.
It did. It
sounds like that deepened your commitment and your decision to not miss a day.
Yes, because when I back to March, when I was at that point and that job was being offered, and you know, nothing else was there wasn't any other job that was saying that there too. So it was it was like, okay, well, this, or when I did that, I just knew. I just went, okay, this is the way I'm going to live now. I'm going to commit to this process. And the truth is that process is not a very big deal. I mean, I don't know about other people, but for me, I need 20 minutes in nature, or I need a walk, and these are things that I almost have to do to feel like I'm integrated and I'm in my body, and I mean it. Because that was, for me, I want to stay with the answer to your question, but there's something else that's coming up, too, and that is that when in Trevor's book, he's talking about nature as a child and so forth, and that was my place of refuge as a child. I mean, that's where I went to get out of my crazy, our crazy family drama.
Yeah.
And so that aspect of it was already integrated, and the idea that, 20 minutes every morning, get up, try to do it at the same time. I will tell you, I have traveled a couple times since reading the book, and there have been times I've had to do the intentions writing in my car. There's been times when I've been at the gym and I've had to do my 20 minutes all by myself, in the steam room.
Oh, wow.
I always try to do it first thing in the morning, but if there's something, and I've been doing what he says, get up. If you have to leave at 6 a.m., get up at 5:30 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I do that, but if I don't do that, then when I'm driving, I pull over and I take the 20 minutes then. I mean, I just feel like the more I do it, the more magic the day is just continues to have magic in it.
Mm. So for you, what I'm hearing in your story is that you've chosen a no excuses approach because you've embraced the importance of it and the impact that it has in your life.
Yes, and what the other piece, this is probably a totally different story, different subject, but the other piece that happened to me once I started was I started a creative project that I had always wanted. When I said no to that job, I started something else that I've always wanted to do because his book made me realize I've got to do this. And so the contract thing again. And so I've been in this creative process of writing my own book, and just finished it yesterday, if you can believe.
Oh, congratulations!
So, yes, thank you.
Wow,
thank you.
okay.
So, when you're in that creative soup, and you're being fed by your muse, or, and you've got this whole dance going on, you have to, from my experience, has been the process of connection, deeper connection is the priority.
So the process, the practice of the 3 simple steps really fed your creativity and what you needed.
Oh, I mean, and continues to. On every level, and that whole thing made me realize I can write this book, and I didn't even think twice about it anymore. And then all of a sudden, somebody said, "Oh, you can," and here's what you do, and here's what you do, and here's what you do. I mean, every door just opened.
Wow. And that's the magic right there, right? Just having things just naturally flow and occur in your life that were perfectly timed. I call it moments of serendipity because it happens to me too. Almost every single day something serendipitous happens and I go, this must be part of the magic,
Yeah, exactly. It's the path of least resistance.
Yeah. And so to our listeners, I think this is a really good lesson that, if you're saying, well, I don't have the time, you don't understand, I have kids, you don't understand, I have this, I have that, I think what I'm hearing from a lot of 3 Simple Steps users, the ones that are really avid implementers of it and stick with it, is that they really simply decided on a no excuses approach to implementing the 3 simple steps. And in your story, Grace, you're doing it no matter what. Some days you can't do it first thing in the morning, but you steal a moment here or there and you make it happen. You write your intentions wherever you can find the time to write your intentions, but you're persistent about making sure that this happens in your life every single day. And I think if you don't make it a priority, it doesn't become a priority. It's really a decision that comes from within that helps you to stick with it.
And absolutely, you're saying it all. That's perfect. And the thing is that I think, when the mentality, when your mentality shield is intact too, then you realize that it all goes together. I mean, it sort of resonates together, because I have found that, doing all of it, and then having a mentality shield, it's like I don't get distracted anymore. It's almost like, I mean, I get distracted sometimes, but my distractions are more minimal, and so I have more time to go, all right, I'm going to go in the bathroom and close the door. I'm not coming back for 10 minutes.
Right? It's perfectly permissible to be in the bathroom for 20 minutes.
And I love that, and I also love in his book too the thing about, for me, this whole thing about the intentions being personal, because for so long mine have always been about the world and everybody else, and not that that's all really great, but but when he started saying, because they need to be personal, and I thought, wow, my husband doesn't have to be on the same page as me. I love that. I love that. I stay focused on mine, and he stays in his business, and that really empowered me.
Wow. And so the feeling of empowerment came from what? Where were you before you embraced that it's okay for this to be a personal thing?
Maybe it's that whole thing about being selfish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That whole thing of he talks about it in the book, and many other authors talk about it. Put on your own mask before you help the person next to you.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I mean, it's like if I don't have my mentality shield or my own intentions intact, and then I call my family and something doesn't go right, then it just things like, it just feels like things just go in a different direction. But when I'm conscious of, okay, my husband doesn't have to feel this way about this, but I feel this way, so I'm going to stick with my intentions. It seems like I can do this for myself. I don't, I'm not excluding anybody. I'm not being greedy. I mean, maybe it's just a thing about, self-permission to, giving ourselves permission to really have the life that we really want.
Awesome. And share with our listeners, if you would, what so you talked about mastering your mentality and the impact that has had on you, and let's go into quiet time now. So what was your experience when you started quiet time? Because you did meditation before, so if you can share what the experience was for you in terms of what was different about it and the direct impact you saw it having in your own life.
Okay, so I'm a fan of guided meditation. So I have two different people that I listen to in my guided meditations, and they're really great and just really great stuff. And so with Trevor's idea of taking quiet time, honestly, what I do, it doesn't matter where I'm at. I get up and I go outside, and I'm on my front porch every single morning, unless this morning I was, in the steam room. But because he talks about the consistency of having the same spot, same time, and I don't know what it is. There's just something about that's magical. But the quiet time thing before the sun comes up, oh my God, on the front porch, and then the birds start singing. I mean, for me, it's so delicious. It's like it just doesn't get that. I mean, it does get better than that, but. One thing I wanted to say quickly about that is if I go to bed and I'm sort of feeling like, I'm in a vulnerable place, or I'm not sure about what's going on with something in my life, or I have to do this, I have to do that, because of, following the 3 simple steps and taking the quiet time, I've gotten into this thing where I set my clock and I go, I'm going to get up even earlier so that I can change the way I feel.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you take a longer quiet time, is that it?
I have been doing that. I have been taking a little bit of a longer quiet time. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay, mine has gotten longer and longer quite by accident. I don't think I planned it. I mean, I carve out 2 hours in the morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. For myself, and just to do whatever I want to do to start my day with my quiet time, writing my intentions and all that. And I started with 20 minutes, and all of a sudden one day I accidentally sat there for 50 minutes and didn't realize it. And I opened my eyes and I went, oh, that's almost an hour. I think I was enjoying it so much that I just was like, I'm just going to stay here. But it was kind of accidental, and now I'm like, well, that's 50 minutes. Felt really good. I think I want to do that again. So for you, it's more intentional, where you're like, I think I want more of that the next day because of what I feel now tonight.
Yeah, and absolutely, I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's true. If we have the luxury of that open space, why not take longer?
And so yours is outdoors.
I am so outdoors. I lived in California for 20 years, and now I'm on I'm on this side of the country.
Right. It's getting a little chilly out here. So what do you say to people who say, "Well, I can't go outdoors; it's too cold"?
Oh, I think people should do what makes them feel good. But I honestly put on the 2 Patagonias, a big wool coat, and a hat and gloves, and I take my apple cider vinegar and hot water with cardamom and honey, and I sit on my front porch.
Oh, wow. Nice. I mean, I go out in nature every morning as well, and like you, I'm in Georgia, and it's been, for people who are in the East Coast, they're probably thinking y'all haven't seen cold yet. But for me, 25 is cold. 25 degrees is pretty darn cold for Georgia. But I literally put on 4 layers of clothes, and I go walk in the park still. I put on 4 layers of clothes, and I put on a big winter jacket, and I go walk in the park every morning. So no matter how cold it is, I go out. But it's kind of that you can't tell someone to do that unless they feel that, what we feel when we go out there. I think that's just a personal experience, and once you feel it and experience it, it's like, I don't care, I'm going out. And I am not an outdoor person at all, wasn't at all before I read 3 Simple Steps. I grew up in the Caribbean, but I think I didn't appreciate, the wonder of the Caribbean when I was there. And I'm one of those people where if the temperature dropped below 75, I am not going outside. I was like, because I grew up in 85 degrees, and I just never acclimated myself to cooler temperatures, and I would just hibernate. I lived in Massachusetts for 25 years, so I know what it is to have, below 0 temperatures too. But I used to hibernate, and I tell you, when I read 3 Simple Steps and about Trevor's story about connecting with nature and all of that, I was like, well, what's he talking about nature all the time? Well, let me go outside and see. I'm like, maybe I'm missing something. Because for me, connecting with nature was, if I went to the Caribbean, I stood at the edge of the ocean, and I could literally cry for the calmness it brought me. And so for me, that was connecting with nature. But when I heard him talk about going out and walking in the trees, I'm like, trees? I never considered trees to be anything. But then I was like, okay, let me go try this, And the first time I went out, it was like an extension of my quiet time, right? It was like, I'm by myself, I'm walking in nature, it's cool, it's refreshing and quiet. And then as time progressed and I did it over and over every single day, it became an addiction. It became a good addiction, because it made me, I feel like I have this strong connection with nature, and no one who has not yet experienced this will understand this, but I literally step onto the grass and I feel the energy of the trees and the clouds and the sky, and I just like relish in nature now, and that wasn't who I was before. So for our listeners who are listening to this, if you're like me going, trees, what does trees do? Give it a shot and keep it consistent. And I know Trevor recommends once a week going out in nature, but I go out in nature every single day, as much as I can every single day. And for me, it just, I don't know, it releases the neurons or the energy, and so whatever I'm doing, I don't know what it is, but there's a deep connection out in nature. So I totally get you on that. So what's your connection with nature? What's that experience been for you? Because it sounds like you did your connection with nature long before you read Trevor's book.
Well, so the first thing for me is that, yes, when I was a child, and I grew up in Ohio, and My sisters had me on horses before I was 2 years old. I mean, we spent, a fall, I grew up with just the whole thing, ice skating, sled riding, on the beach, taking family vacations on the beach, and everything was always about, for me, I felt my best when I was outside, and it's just always been that way for me. And then, you get busy and you get to go to school and you start working and so forth, and so I kind of went away from it for a little bit, then moved to Los Angeles and lived there for quite a while and went through a number of things. I went through some serious health stuff, and then when that happened, my husband and I said, I think we were living in Los Angeles like 14 years by that time, and we sold everything and we moved to a farm, and we went from that to working with animals and to gardening and vegetable growing and butchering butchering our own animals. I mean, it was a whole totally different thing, and we did it because of some situations, because of what we were going through in our lives, and I was really sick, and I just knew that I really trusted that that Mother Earth was going to heal me, and so I worked the land, and it did. It happened. I mean, it's been, and ever since then, that was 2004. Ever since then, my whole thing has been I'm involved with something that has to do with growing food and being in resonance with the land and being outside and working with animals and tending bees, and just my whole thing is really about nature.
So you had a real deep connection with nature all the time. Did anything change when you read Trevor's book, or is it just deepening always with you?
One thing that has one thing that I realized that reading the book is that, because now I live in a city.
Oh, okay.
Let me just clarify that. That's a really good point, because we ended up in Virginia on a 1,000-acre farm, and then we moved to the city.
Wow.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? And do I really want to be in this city, and can I handle this? And what about trees? And what, just like you said, and so much cement. But Asheville is really wonderful in the way because we're surrounded by mountains, so the city and the forest are intertwined in a way that it's not, other places aren't like this. So one thing that I, in writing my own book, and being involved in a creative project and being sort of manic about it, because it's just it's just flowing so intensely.
Yeah.
I had to, every day, stop myself, interrupt my writing, and say, okay, you got to get outside. And that's so weird for me, because usually my mornings were up at 5:15 with the chickens and not, and out, and, the whole thing, until, the sun went down. But now it's living in the city, it's totally a conscious effort where, listen, I got to go connect.
And so you're in the city, and we probably have some listeners that are in the city that feel the same way that you do. Jesus, just concrete everywhere. How am I going to connect with nature? I don't even have a park for miles. What do I do? What do you do to connect with nature now that you are in the city?
Well, it's really simple. To me, it's just, you just step out the door and face south, and you'll feel the gorgeous sun on your face,
Right.
For me, it's really that simple, where it's like as soon as I walk out of a building and I feel the sunlight on me, it's like, okay. And I walk all over the city, and I ride my bike, and I would do a lot more, except that I'm dealing with a physical injury right now, and so I do that even though I have the physical injury. I don't push myself, but in the right time of the year, when we first moved here, I was doing urban gardening with people a couple hours a week, and just, there's always a way to get outside. I mean, even if you work in a city and you have to, lunchtime, you walk to go get your lunch, or you walk. I'm one of those people who, ever since, I started riding a bike, it's like cars are wonderful, but sometimes they're really annoying. So it's like if you just walk instead of drive, 10 minutes, it's a huge difference. And my husband and I, we walk into town all the time. I mean, sure, it would be much easier to, jump in the car, 5-10 minutes faster, but we make an intention every day to walk.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And are there a lot of trees around you, or is it just you're enjoying? There are. Okay.
No, I had 4 bear in my front yard a couple of weeks ago. So yes, Asheville is really unique. I mean, we're in the mountains, but I kid you not, we're 5 minutes from downtown.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. But it sounds like for our listeners too, who are surrounded by concrete and buildings, part of connecting with nature is just getting outside, just as Grace said, and looking up at the sky. And, being out there in the open air with the sunlight beaming down on you. I mean, that in and of itself, even if there's not a tree in sight, being outside in the open air, under the sky and the clouds is enough, to appreciate and to experience. But that's great. So you still get out and connect with nature as well.
Every day.
Awesome.
Twice a day, 3 times a day.
As much as you can.
As much as I can, definitely.
Okay. My next question for you is around writing intentions. I remember the first time that I realized that Trevor really meant to get a pen and write, because we're in such a technology-based world, and he really encourages us through the book and invites us through the book to literally get a pen and write it out somewhere, write out your intentions. And initially I had some resistance to it because I don't really write much at all. I'm on my computer a lot. My business is very online, so I'm so used to being on the computer that, the concept of actually picking up a pen and writing was like, oh, and I have to do this every day, huh? And there was a little bit of resistance in me until I started to write it, and I felt the power of the words, and how significant it was for me. So share with our viewers what that process was like for you. Did you do, writing out your intentions before you read the book? If you didn't, what was the transition? What did it feel like in the beginning? What does it feel like now? Did it evolve a little bit? Did it change slightly over the months? Share what you can about the intention writing process.
Yeah, that's good. Definitely, I think I was doing something not necessarily called, in writing my intentions out before reading 3 Simple Steps. I was probably, I'm trying to think of what I was doing, but I know I was journaling, and I always have been, and I've always sort of went through many years of recording my dreams and so forth every morning. So I sort of already had that happening. But I'm very visual, and so, I'm really visual. It's like, it's not, if I can't see it, I don't get it. And that's a whole different story anyway.
Yeah. So you like to see things in pictures.
Oh, yeah. I'm a collage person. All that kind I have to see things. And so when I write, take a pen and write, it's like, yes, I can, I'm seeing it. I'm looking at it. I love how he says, if you're by yourself or you're in your car or you're taking a walk, say them, like he talks about. I know my dog thinks I'm weird because he says them out loud.
Yeah.
And I do that. I do all those things because I think sometimes it's really, what happens, even if you're even in a little bit in the quicksand, stuff happens and you start to feel like it's really easy to focus on what you don't want instead of what you want in life. And so I've sort of had to keep training myself that with the writing the intentions out, I get it. I got it. I can see those every day. I'm looking at them every day. Sometimes I'm looking at them twice a day, and I love the idea that you can carry them in your wallet. And I just told my husband this yesterday. I was at the bank this week, and it was a long line. I was like, do I want to wait? And I thought, I'll just wait. I'll straighten my wallet while I'm here. So I did it, and behind it, and in my wallet was my intentions that I wrote like back in June, and there they were, and I looked at them. I think I only had like 6 on there, and I just started laughing because one of them was, I'm going to finish this book by December of 2013.
Oh, and wow.
It was the coolest feeling because there I was, and there, the book is done, and I'm like, oh my God, standing in the bank, it was such a powerful feeling for me. It was really really, really reaffirmed to me that, you know, that I'm in the flow of the direction I want my life to go. And so so the visual part of it is good for me, and then, you know, how he talks about having the large thing to write on and so forth every morning, that's my next step, because I have notebooks since I started writing the intentions. I've got one notebook after another, but I decided yesterday I'm going to go bigger.
Oh, okay. What does that mean?
I'm going to write them out on big paper, you know, on really big paper.
Okay.
Something just said to me, you know, let's go bigger, so that because I have to open my notebook every morning and look at them, and, you know, or I carry the notebook around with me. I have them in my wallet, but if I have them even bigger, because they keep getting refined.
Yes. So talk about that. Like, how do they get refined for you?
Let's see. Well, because sometimes I think I want something, and I start to move in the direction of it, and I go, oh, but I don't want it like that. I want I want it this way.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't want it to come to me like that. I want it to come to me, you know, in this way, because, you know, you write the intention out, and, you know, the fairies of the universe or whatever are like, okay, and stuff starts moving in that direction, and you go, oh, maybe I need to be a little bit more specific.
Okay, so the details change and get refined to be more of what you truly want.
Yeah, and,
okay.
You know, and that whole thing where he talks about they need to be in past tense, too.
Yeah, interesting, yeah.
So, because I was reading the book again yesterday, I was like, I think I need to get a little bit more past tense, because sometimes I forget about the past tense thing, and then, you know, when he gives those examples of, you know, if you want to go to Paris and travel for a year, and how you write those out, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, because there's a few of them that I really want, and so I'm like, okay, all right, you know, I'm gonna keep refining this.
Interesting. So let me ask you a little bit about the intentions, just for the benefit of our viewers who may be new users of 3 Simple Steps, or beginning the 3 Simple Steps journey. Are you writing out, and I asked Trevor this too, and I'm going to put up his video shortly, but are you writing out statements, like one-line statements about your intentions? Are you writing like mini stories about each of your intentions? What's the experience like for you? Like, how do you write your intentions?
I think it probably depends on, obviously, each person's way of communicating with themselves or to other people, but I write statements to myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I write statements for sure.
Okay. So you write like one-line statements?
Yeah, but it's funny, because I noticed this week that they are getting longer. Those one-line statements, as I'm getting more specific, are getting
the colorful details. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, they're extending. Yeah.
That's funny. Now, for our listeners, you don't have to do that. I just have a lot of fun with the detail, and I really feel like I'm narrating my story. I'm narrating my life, and one of the suggestions Trevor made about writing your intentions is to just think of a perfect day. And so I start out saying I get up in the morning, and I talk about the room that I'm in, and the house that I live in, and the experience that I'm having in my business, and the lives that are changing as a result of my work. And I really write a lot of detail and colorful detail, and so it's been growing and growing, but it hasn't gone past two full-size sheets yet. And it doesn't have to take a long time. You can keep it really short and crisp, like a 3x5 index card is fine. So for our listeners, I remember when my son, my 11-year-old son, who also loves and reads Trevor's book, he came in and he does, and he saw me he saw me putting away my intention sheet. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's like essays. I don't want to do that. Because that's like schoolwork. I don't want to do that. And because I re-listened to the audio, and he also asks to hear Trevor's book often too, and we were re-listening to the intention writing part of Trevor's book, and all of a sudden I saw my 11-year-old son pull out a notebook, and he started writing, and he looked up at me and he said, "Do not ever open this book. You're not supposed to read anything in here."
Oh my God, I love it.
So he resisted it. He's like, I'm not writing, because he hates to write. He's like, I don't want to write. I don't want to write. And then all of a sudden he starts writing in this little black notebook. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to look.
That is so great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So yours is more statements of the experiences that you want to have.
And I'm in a school size 8.5 by 11 notebook. I think I've gone through. I and mine are typically 2 pages. 2 pages of that. Sometimes 3. Sometimes I have to tell you, I've noticed if I've been in quicksand, if I'm feeling a little bit like I'm in quicksand, they're a little bit longer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
Because I'm probably feeling a little bit more vulnerable, maybe a little bit. I don't want to use the word desperate, because that doesn't sound like fun, but, certain things that trigger feelings, maybe there's a little bit of powerlessness in some situation. I'm going through something where I'm feeling some powerlessness, and so I'm trying to identify, how I can, for me it's all about how can I feel better. So
it's kind of like shifting your energy.
Yeah,
and the more you write, the more you do that.
Exactly, and sometimes my intentions, have nothing to do. I was looking at them this week, and I thought, oh my God. After I read his book yesterday when I was at the doctor, I was like, that's interesting. A lot of my intentions are emotional things, and not necessarily state of being, And I said, I think maybe I need to do more material things,
Well, it's interesting that you shared that, because I interviewed another 3 Simple Steps user, and she said when she read Trevor's book and he talked about, having a vacation home and material kinds of intentions, she was in such a low place emotionally that she couldn't even identify with that. And she said, the only intention that I can have at this moment is to be in an awesome place mentally and emotionally, and that's all she wrote about. That's really all she wrote about. She couldn't even get to the point of thinking about, $1 million homes or anything like that. She's like, all I wrote about was that I am in control of my mentality. Her whole intention writing was all around really being in control of her mentality, because that's where she experienced the greatest amount of struggle and battle.
Yeah, because she was in quicksand more than she was. Yeah, I totally get that. I so get that. That's exactly. Because the truth is, the better you feel, the more things just come to, the more these material things come. It's like we all know that it's not the material things that make us happy. I mean, they certainly, make life easier and fun and all those things. But that's not the substance of life. I mean, and I really get that from Trevor. I mean, especially listening to his blog, I'm like, God, he's such a regular person. People think so. There's a whole thing around money and all of that and material stuff and I'm really not a consumer, but reading his book has actually helped me shift to more of what I was saying earlier, giving myself permission, like, oh, I can have these things. I don't have to, like he gives the example of his wife's friend, who's always buying things at thrift stores and stuff. And I thought, that's a really good example. We can have really nice things for ourselves.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. So what were some surprising experiences that you have? You talked about magic, and things seem to be happening magically. Can you share with our listeners a few examples, or 1 or 2 examples of what that magic was for you, things that are happening magically, or any surprises as a result of doing 3 Simple Steps?
Oh my gosh. So many things. Let's see. Let me just see if I can give 2. Well, the biggest thing for me was, in a nutshell, feeling this impulse to write my memoir, and then going, oh, how am I going to get this out there? And then just having, 2 days later, showing up somewhere and somebody saying to me, oh, it's no big deal at all. This is what you do. You just self-publish, blah, blah. And, it was just like, that person, I wanted that. It was so perfect for me, because it was a doorway in it, and I said, I don't have to go out there and try to be this other writer and try to get a publisher and say, no, this is my creative project and this is how I can do it. So that was one thing, because that is something that's just a huge project.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing, there's so many things, but the one thing I do want to share is that one morning I was on my front porch, and it was still dark out and early morning, and during my quiet time, and it was just a beautiful, morning, and I said I was going through something with somebody I was working for, and not really feeling like I wanted to do that job, and just a little bit not feeling great about it. And I said, oh, I don't want to think about this in my quiet time. So I closed my eyes and I said to myself, let me reconnect to the matrix, to the source. And I did, and I kid you not, a minute later I opened my eyes and shooting star went right over me.
Wow. Awesome.
In this city, and I was just like, oh my! I wanted to just run inside and wake my husband up. I was like, oh my God, because we saw them all the time. Yeah, we saw them all the time on the farm, out on 1,000 acres. But they're happening all the time. But it was just there it was.
Wow, magical moments. Anything else shifted for you in your life as you were implementing 3 Simple Steps?
Let's see. Just a broader sense of so many things, but again, in a nutshell, a broader sense of really participating in taking my life in a direction where I want it to go. I mean, just really feeling aligned with what the next chapter in my life is going to be, and the people I'm going to be working with, and the things I'm going to be doing, and just really feeling like, I just love how his book has sort of given me permission to I don't know because I don't know what that's going to be, but I feel like I'm on my way, and I feel like his book is giving me permission to create that, like he didn't, I just love how he shares how all, living in England and all the things that he went to all these different things he went through to get to where he is. And so it's true when they say, it's all in the journey. And I feel like the more I'm contributing to what I want that journey to look like because of this process, I know it's going to be good.
Have you had moments of insight that Trevor talks about? Have you had experiences with moments of insight? Not yet?
No. I was going to say, how he talks about he had that in the airport?
Yes.
And I love that.
Visceral boom, the idea just comes to you, yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to say yes because of the book. Because that, for me, is that is definitely a moment of insight, and it's been like having a baby, so it's been like, trusting. So absolutely yes. Yeah. Do I want more? Yeah. Do I want more? Yes.
So the book was a moment of insight. Writing your book was a moment of insight for you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And committing to that, and knowing that I need to do this. I need to do this now, and I need to. There's something about momentum. There's something. And maybe it's because his process is so simple, and the discipline is so integral to commit. It's just it's so important to do it every day, that seeing those intentions every day, knowing that I want to bring this book out into the world, blah 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 blah. For me, no matter what happens with it, it has changed my life writing this book. So the whole process, and really, knowing that, oh my God, I can do this. So I feel like the whole process of the 3 Simple Steps through this incubation period of creativity and so forth is, I'll never be the same person.
Awesome. And what was that moment of insight like for you when the idea came to you?
Gosh.
And where were you when the idea came to you?
I know I was in the I was in Virginia, and it goes back to that, Allison. It goes back to that moment where I was telling you when this book fell off the shelf in our library, and then I brought it home, and I was at that pivotal point, and said no to that. He talks about it. You say, I don't have to take this job. This person, I feel right. It's just that moment where you go, no, I want something better. Even though I may need this, I want something better.
Yeah.
So that was the moment. I think the moment for me was the first time I wrote the contract out to myself. I cried. I remember sitting in my studio crying. I remember thinking,
wow.
I got to do this. I have to do this for myself.
And that's when you thought of writing the book. That's when the idea came.
Well, that's what it came shortly after that. Right after that, I was writing, but I didn't realize it was going to be a book in that moment.
Oh, I see.
Because I had just started his book. See, here's what happened to me: the longer, the more I kept reading his book, the more I knew I needed to write mine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, that's what happened. Because he gave me permission. It's so funny. Like, his mother's name is Audrey, and my mom's name is Audrey, and he's talking about nature, and he's talking about, his siblings. I'm like, oh, my God.
Experiences. Wow.
Totally similar family experiences, and stuff I've been carrying around for years, and I just thought, no, I gotta follow this.
And let me ask you, in writing the book, so how long did it take you to write the book?
You see, this is what I'm talking about. Let me just tell you, when you ask for something you want, the book took me 9 months.
Oh, you really gave birth.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I've never done anything like this before. It's such a it's not going to be. People take years to write books and do all that, and that's not what's happening for me. This is a time sensitive baby.
Wow. So let me ask you this, Grace, because as Trevor talks about in his book, when we get that moment of insight and that idea just comes to us and we feel like, for our listeners, it literally feels like every fiber in your body is saying yes to this opportunity or to this thing. It's as Trevor says, it's very different than, oh, this is a great idea. It's very different than that. It's like such a visceral, powerful experience that it just moves you right into action, and you have to do something about it. And so my question for you, since the book took 9 months to write, were there ups and downs in writing the book where you second-guessed and which Trevor calls the winding staircase, right? So, because I know that some of our viewers and our listeners will probably experience that after that moment of insight hits, you're like, everything's going to be great, and then you get on the wind, and for those of you who haven't read the book, Trevor has an analogy in his book about the winding staircase, but you get on the winding staircase, and all of a sudden you're like, was I right about this thing that came to me? So share with our viewers, if you will, how come you stayed committed? Because obviously you had ups and downs. What was it within you? And Trevor calls it a sense of knowing, where even though you're experiencing ups and downs, there's a deeper sense of knowing inside of you that says, this is what I was meant to do. So what was your experience with the sense of knowing in spite of the ups and downs as you were writing the book?
It's a feeling of being summoned. I have felt it before in my life, and I felt it when my husband and I sold everything again. This time we didn't leave Los Angeles. This time we left Santa Barbara and moved from a 1-acre homestead to a 1,000-acre farm. And the summoning that happened inside of me for that experience, that adventure, that job, whatever you want to call it, was so strong. It was a hell yes. It was just like nothing can get in your way. It's like people could look at you and say you're try and talk you out of it, and so many things, and you're being summoned.
I love how you put that, Grace, because that's what it feels like. It feels like a hell yes. You know, and no matter what happens, it's like, hell yes, I'm doing this. I totally get that. Go ahead.
It's like the person who comes through, you know, with all the growth, get out of my way, get out of my way. You know, here I come. I mean, it's just like nobody. And I've had that happen to me. I've had that happen several times. I had that happen with helping someone who was in a very bad place in their lives, and I went back and helped them. And I just was back there and this, being very brief, but helping this person get out of this living situation, and I got it right when I was there. I was like, oh my God, I got to get this person out of here. And it was just like the moment that clicked, everything inside me said, get out of my way. We got to get this kid out of this living situation. And then, of course, it was the best thing, and all these great things happened. But that's what's been going on for me. I almost burnt my house down writing this book. I found checks writing this book. I've never done that before in my life.
Wow.
I can tell you so many things that I didn't, you know, because the summoning and the flow and the muse and all these things and all these. Everything inside me was just like, hell yes, you got to do this, and it's a kind of a. I wanted to say you have to be really careful because it's a very powerful feeling, and it almost in a way it needs to be contained,
corralled,
otherwise,
corralled, yeah,
because otherwise you know. Maybe I wasn't ready for it until I had my mentality shield, you know, until I could really just, you know what I'm saying? Because then
that's so true. Yeah, because and for our listeners, what Grace is referring to here, Trevor talks often about, you know, you get these amazing ideas, and if your mentality shield is not intact, you kind of go out into the world with this baby, right? This idea that you need to give birth to, and then, you know, life whacks at it. You know, your friends poop on it, somebody tells you it's an awful idea, you know, all these things happen, and if you don't protect it with your mentality shield and becoming a master of your mentality, those ideas will never come to fruition. So that's a perfect statement that you made there, Grace, that you were ready when your mentality shield and your mentality control was really solidified and strengthened.
Yeah, well, because otherwise you're just going to get eaten alive.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, yeah, that's, you know, so that's a great, I love how you summarize things. It's great. That's right.
Awesome. Is there one particular moment that you can share with our listeners that was a winding staircase and how you bounced back from that, just having your resilience so strong?
I wonder if I should give this example. Yes, there is. I think I can say this.
Okay.
I took a job and didn't want anything major because the book has been the focus, and so I said I'm going to do this job for several hours a week, and was sort of so about it, you know, and then got into it a little bit further, and then did not, let's see, how do I explain this? It just wasn't right. And in the past, I think what I would have done is I would have done it anyway. I would have come up with all of these unwizardly statements in my head and said, you know, this, you got to do it for this reason, you got to do it for that reason. And I just got it. One day I went, and there was not a good interaction between a few people, and I went home, and I went, this doesn't feel good, you know, this just doesn't feel good, and I had to work really hard to have my mentality shield intact there, and I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to work this hard to, and I just said, I got it. I just said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to do this. Yes, I need the money, or I need this, but I'm not. Something else is going to come. I'm not going to do this. Called the person, said this isn't working out for me, and I wish you the best, and I'm not going to come back. You know, I mean, it was just like, and as I say, in the past, I think I would have just, you know, I have in the past just milked situations like that for other reasons where I'm not trusting my instincts, turning them off, and this time I said no. And the best part of that for me was I just, since then, too, the book just just came out, it flowed even more for me. So I was saying no to that and yes, yes to my thing. I love how Trevor talks about, you go out there and you work for these idiot people or whatever. It's challenging sometimes, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. It's just we all are who we are, and so when a situation doesn't work, let's be clear. Hey, let's cut our losses and move on.
Powerful. So let me ask you, I have a question about that experience. So what was it, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, what was it inside of you that gave you the faith and confidence to do that? Because, there may be people listening right now going, that's me. I'm in a situation where, I'm really feeling strongly like I shouldn't be doing this, that, or the other thing, and but I'm afraid, or I'm not quite sure where the money's going to come from next, and, all of these things. And, of course, we're not, suggesting at all people make reckless decisions, but I'm just curious about where did that strength and faith and confidence come from inside of you such that you felt completely fine letting go and just relinquishing that opportunity?
Well, I think I have been, I want to answer that really clearly. I just need to back up for 1 second and just say I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. I mean, we all have. And there's been some very specific things that I've been through that sort of have kind of taught me along the way, who I am and who I am not. And I think what it was for me, is that since I've been in this process, 3 Simple Steps and other things that I, that I'm aware of that's going on in the world, it's sort of like, I think we forget that we're here to enjoy life, and we're here to enjoy other people, and we're here to have a good time, and yes, we're here to work, and we're here to, do all these things. But I really think at the end of the day that, if you're not feeling good and you're not hanging and working with people you really want to be around, then, life's just too short. It's just too short to put up with shit and bullshit. And I've done all of that, I mean, I've done all of that. I've compromised, I've settled, all the things he talks about in the book, and if I don't pull myself out of that pattern, nobody else is going to do it, because the next guy is as good as, what I'm saying? It's like we're all, in some ways, we're all replaceable.
Right.
If I don't say, hey, you can't treat me that way. I may work for you, but you can't treat me that way. Then I'm given the wrong. Then what am I doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it in the end, in a simple way of saying is that it just didn't feel good, and I like feeling good.
And it's funny that what I sense there for you as well is that piece of your life that was happening while you were writing this awesome book, that piece of your life was kind of detracting from the powerful energy of writing that book. So you had this negative energy playing out in your life. And the minute you released that, all of a sudden you were free to pour all of that positive energy into the writing of your book.
Exactly. And I have to back up and say the mentality shield was so strong in me. And as I said, in the beginning of that, going to that job every day, the days that I went, I had to keep making my mentality shield bigger. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, how big does it need to get? And then when 2 incidents happened, I went, there's nothing I can do here that is going to make that. You know what I'm saying? It's like this person is so who this person is. I just happen to be in the wrong place. That's all.
It became clear that it's really time to sever ties.
Yeah. And so nice that it was, not a 6 years, whatever. It just wasn't drawn out. It's just like, this isn't working.
Yeah. Another question comes to mind for me, because you've committed to this 3 Simple Steps process. Have others around you noticed a change in you? And if so, have they commented, and what have they commented on?
That's a really, you know what? That's a good question, but in a different way, because I'm in a position, since my husband and I are in this new state, we are in a position where this is so interesting, we don't know really many people.
Oh, okay.
And so that is, so I'm not around, so the people that really know me, they haven't seen, they get my emails, we talk, whatever, and they're all blown away that I've written a book, but, whatever. And by the way, I never told anybody I was writing that book. I told maybe two people.
The entire time?
Yes.
Wow.
Because I knew that, I just knew. It was part of the mentality shift. I just knew. I knew that I could start talking about it once I knew that I was going to make it happen, no matter what it's going to happen.
So you really protected that baby.
I didn't talk about it for 5 months. So anyway, the person who would really be the question to ask that to would be my husband, but I can safely say that that he definitely has seen. What he said to me is he's just, the commitment of the writing is something that has just sort of blown his mind, because the passion that I feel for this project is something he knows that I'm already really passionate, but the commitment and the discipline to it every single day has pretty much blown his mind.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and that comes from just the pure decision and passion about the thing you were called to do. Like you said, you felt like you were summoned to do it. It wasn't just like, it's a good idea for me to write this book. It was deeper than that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So when is your book coming out?
That's a good question. That's the next chapter. That's the next part, and I'm self-publishing. So the place who I'm publishing with is Balboa, and Balboa has a website, and I have a date in mind, and I'd like to think that they can line up, on that date of release with me, and so I'm looking forward to that. But I will know more about that in the next week.
Awesome. And for our listeners or viewers, what would be your recommendations for anyone considering getting on the journey of 3 Simple Steps?
I think you just find the book somewhere and start reading. I don't know, it's a very each person's thing is, it depends on how much, it depends really on what you want. If you want to feel good, start reading it now, start if you want to make some significant changes emotionally, physically, spiritually, money, financially, whatever, I feel like you just read the book, because I feel Trevor is he's just very open. He's very open about his process. And I don't think when I found out, his financial success, I was like, this is pretty miraculous that this guy is really sharing these intimate things, because, him being beat up on that bus, in England, and how poor his family and so forth, and then seeing, where that not ever wanting to feel that again, where that took him in his life. So I say, if you don't want to read, start listening to his blog, because I love his Monday Morning Medicine.
Yeah. I actually 2 days ago downloaded a ton of them, because I'm about to do a trip down to visit with my son in college, and I'm like, let me download a few of those Monday Morning Medicine snippets so I can listen on my several hours of driving. Yeah, they're awesome. Definitely keeps your mindset in the place of what you need to stay focused on to continue this journey and experience powerful things in your life.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, Ms. Grace Hernandez, for being with me. That was an awesome sharing of your experiences with 3 Simple Steps, and I'm sure it's going to inspire and encourage others to have experiences very similar to your own. So I thank you for taking the time to share with us.
Thank you for what you're doing, and I'm glad we connected, and I'm looking forward to hearing more people's stories when I take a look at your website.
Thank you for joining us for another interview in the Stories from 3simplesteps.com series. If you feel this story would inspire and encourage someone you know, we invite you to send them to storiesfrom3simplesteps.com. If you are implementing 3 Simple Steps and you feel inspired to share your experience, we would love to interview you and to have your experience inspire others. Simply go to storiesfrom3simplesteps.com and click the button to share your story.